You started speaking about this a few years ago and calling out the UK press here, but the reaction, it wasn't a great reaction from the media. They didn't necessarily agree with you, that you made them feel very uncomfortable when you did that.
Well, I don't know what they do if you criticize them, is they try to starve you of oxygen. Do you see what I mean? They won't actually take place in a debate. I mean, the first time I ever noticed this, I saw the way the press was going, and I can't remember what year it was, but it was probably early 80s. And I remember I was doing a Michael Aspel show with a very strange combination, Norman Tebbit and Julio Iglesias. And at some point, I spoke out against the press, and I said I thought they were nasty and that they were not running proper stories anymore and that they weren't really working hard and checking their facts. And it was the first time I'd ever said anything like that. And I got a big round of applause from the audience, and it quite surprised me. So I watched the show a couple of days later when it was actually transmitted, and we got to that bit and they cut it out. The television company didn't want to annoy the newspapers. And you begin to realize they're very powerful. They can hurt people's incomes. You see, one of the reasons I speak out about them, of course, is I earn most of my money abroad. But they'll do absolutely everything in their power to cut you off financially. First of all, they starve you of oxygen. And then if you, for example, compare the reviews of my book from around the world, Canada, America, Australia, Northern Europe, all these places, and compare them with the reviews in the Mail, the Telegraph, and the Spectator, you'd think they were talking about different books.
Wow.
I mean, the Telegraph critic, who was the #2 music critic, says there's not a chuckle in it. And several papers say just hilarious, fall about funny. Why? And the answer is the word has been passed down, give a bad review to this person because he criticizes the press. And so I hardly trust them at all. I trust the BBC. If I'm doing Radio 4 or something like that, that's fine. But I wouldn't give interviews to the press. I would write a piece for them, but I wouldn't allow them to edit it because they have no scruples. They're completely unfair in their editing, and they'll take anything out. For example, I went on television once with Emily Maitlis to talk about the fact that the European Broadcasting Union had a poll of every European country. They'd asked 1,000 people in each country about the printed press and said, do you trust it? And we came last. We came last in Europe. And we have come last in 9 of the last 10 years, Brian. Did you ever read about that?
I heard you talk about that, and I was shocked. I didn't think confidence was that low in this country with the press.
Most of my friends now say that they don't read any newspaper at all.
Right.
They don't trust anyone.
Because it's someone else's narrative, someone else's agenda, and it's not real.
Yes, I mean, I just noticed in the last few days in some of the right-wing papers, there have been more interviews, or rather pieces, more supportive of Trump, at this point. And where's that coming from? Well, certainly in the Sunday Times, it's coming from Murdoch. Murdoch's making a fortune, an absolute fortune, out of providing television for people who are not really educated and who have very few information. There was a poll, admittedly it was some years ago, that showed that people who watch Fox television were less well informed than people who didn't watch television at all, which is kind of funny. But I don't trust any of them. They're in it for the money and they're in it for the power. And if I criticize them, then they ought still, if they put their readership first, to let their readers know now and again what's being said. But they'd rather be powerful than serve their readers. So they would just starve me of oxygen. That's why there's hardly been a review of the creativity book so far. And it has been very warmly spoken of in a lot of places.
Interesting.